Hi, and let's destroy planet Earth today. We're going to actually do a explosion of our planet in this tutorial. So what we're going to do is actually set up a scene. So X delete the cube as usual. Let's set the scene up. I'm going to add in an image plane. And this is just going to be a mesh plane, starfield, and it's just a plain old picture that I'm just going to use in my scene. As you can see, it's not facing the front, so I was going to rotate on the Z by 90. So we've got our starfield, or is actually just move our camera into place. So what I'm going to do is actually select my camera. So I'm just going to move this down into the center of my image, just like that. And I'm going to actually have it look at this plane. Add an object constraint, and I'm going to track to that image plane. So the one that's called stars. So if we look through our camera, as you can see, it doesn't fill the whole screen selected, and it is. So as you can see, it doesn't fill our whole screen. So we'll just make this nice and big, so it actually fills our whole screen. And I'm just going to move it along the Y just to take it back. GY, quite a ways. I'm going to increase the actual focal length to 5,000, and this will help make it visible in our render later on. Go onto the camera and mimic that as well. So click on the camera. Instead of 100 meters, I'm going to call it 5,000 meters. It just means that we'll be able to see things as they drift off into the background. So looking from the front, as you can see, we're looking through our camera, select our plane and scale it up. Right, we don't want to actually select our plane again because it's just a background. So if we go into filters up here, we can actually turn on filters and we can make it so it's not selectable. So we've got it there, it's not selectable. Don't think I need that light either, so I'm just going to delete that light. I've got an HDRI actually lighting this scene, and it's the Kaylee one, which I downloaded from Polyhaven. But that's just to actually give it some ambient lighting. We're going to get our planet Earth. I'm just going to scale it up. If we look through our camera, we'll see it's taking up most of our screen, I suppose. And then whenever you actually increase the size of anything, press Ctrl and A and apply rotation and scale like that. So I'm going to go up here into viewport shading, and this will make it visible. I don't need the star field to appear, so let's just turn it off in the render because it's just distracting. And I'm just going to shade auto smooth this. So we've got our camera in our scene, and we're going to make this now into planet Earth. So go into your spanner or wrench, and what we're going to do is add a solidify modifier. It just means that we're working with less geometry later on. Solidify modifier, add modifier, press S and solidify. If we go into these two squares up here, what we can do is we can actually see the internal and external by just actually increasing that, and then apply this modifier. So looking from the front, what we're going to do now is add a texture, or add two textures to this, just to make our planet become real. So new. Right, because this is already UV unwrapped, the UV sphere, what we can do is actually just attach the flat image of this. And this is one I've had kicking around on my computer for absolutely ages. And what we're going to do is go on the image texture. It's a flat plane, and if we actually look at it, I'm just going to open it, and what it is let's just do it so we can actually see the icons. As you can see, it's an Earth color map, and I'm just going to attach that to it. And if we go into render mode, as you can see, we've now got the planet Earth in our scene. Look back from the front, and what we'll do is go into this mode again, the viewport shading mode, because the computer just works it out quicker. And this is where we're going to actually split this into our many blocks that we're going to actually use for our explosion of planet Earth. Right, we've got a thing called quick effects here, and it's cell fracture. Right, if you haven't got cell fracture, it's given away free with Blender, and it's found in preferences, extensions, add-ons, and all you've got to do is click the cell fracture like so. So looking from the front, what we're going to do is, first of all, we're going to take this object and we're going to actually split it up into 100 pieces. So object, quick effects, self fracture. As you can see, it's set to 100 pieces, but this is the magic. Because we've actually, in fact, we'll just cancel that. What I haven't done is we've got the actual outside of the Earth, but we haven't got the inside of the Earth. So I'm just going to call that one the Earth picture. And then just create another texture here, just new. And we're going to make it like a browny colour. And this can be just called soil. Now, I don't want it to be reflective, so I'm going to put the roughness right up to through the roof. But then when we actually use our self-fracture, object, quick effects, self-fracture, as you see, we're actually pull it into 100 pieces. I'm just going to increase the noise, which changes the shapes. You know, can make them bigger or small of our cells. And what we've got here is got material. Now, 0 is the outside of the thing, or the first material. And 1 would be the inside. So if you set this to 1, that's setting 2 materials to our Earth. And then you just hit OK, like that. Let the computer take its time and do the work, just like this. Now this can take some time, and your computer might say not responding up here. But what we've got now is we've actually split the Earth into 100 pieces. Select the original Earth, which is the sphere up here, and just X and delete it. So we're left with these pieces, and if we go into render mode, as you can see, the pieces still make up the planet Earth. So with these pieces selected, what we're going to do is actually go up here, and we've got box select, and we're going to select all the pieces that we've got there, and then we're going to do the self fracture again. So we've got 100 pieces there, object, quick effect, self fracture. Now if we'd split all them 100 pieces into 100, then you'd end up with 10,000 or something like that, which is just a bit too many. So we're just going to actually now split the 100 pieces into 8 pieces. So that's making 800 out of our 100, which makes 900 pieces altogether. Press OK, and this will take some time. And as you can see, the computer up here is saying not responding, but it is. It's just working in the background. So just wait for it to come back, which may take a while. The split into another 8 pieces each. So that means we've got 900 pieces in our scene. And what I'm going to do is actually just hit the S button just to scale these down. And as you can see, we've got the bits around the edge. We've got these in the middle. And then I'm going to repeat this one more time. Depending on how fast your computer, you can repeat this 10 times if you want, but obviously every time it calculates, it takes that little bit longer. So I'm going to go quick effect and self fracture. Now this time, I don't want to actually split them into 8 this time. I'm just going to split them into 2 pieces, which makes my smaller particles, and press OK. And of course, it starts working it out again. And after a while, it'll probably say not responding. As you can see, it's actually splitting each one of them pieces into 2. And some of them are really, really small anyway, because of the random size that we actually set right at the beginning. So just let it do its work, which may take some time. And once it's finished actually splitting these all up into 2 more pieces, what we can do is then shrink the pieces that are left down into a small ball in the middle, and then we'll continue with this tutorial. Looks like it's nearly finished again. By pressing the S key, you can't have very many particles. And scale it down into a small ball in the middle. So just wait for it to finish. So we've got our 3 lots of cells all split up. You've got 100 on the outside, you've got 800 on the inside, and you've got 1600 right in the center, which is our small particles. And if we go into render mode, it still looks like planet Earth. So what we can do now is, what we're going to do is select all the actual particles, all the pieces, like that. In fact, first of all, I'm going to take off gravity, because I don't want gravity to work in our simulation, because I want these to blast out in all directions. So first, what we'll do is actually switch off gravity, which you find in the scene properties. So I've turned that off, and we're going to add the properties to one piece of our puzzle, which is going to be this one. So what we're going to do is actually add a rigid body simulation to this. So hit rigid body, and what we can do is actually set to convex. We go to dynamics, we go to deactivated, we highlight that, open it up as well, and start deactivated. So what we've got now is we've got a deactivated piece that will not be acted upon until a moving object actually hits it. Go on to box select, select all our other pieces. So we want all these pieces to have the same attribute as that. So what we're going to object, rigid body, and then we're going to copy these from the active, which is the first one we set. So copy from the active, which might take a few seconds. So if we now run our animation, we should see nothing happen because all our pieces are not interconnected. They are just separated and just waiting for something else to actually hit them. There we have it. See, nothing happens. So what we'll do now is we'll add our simulation. So Alt H will make everything reappear. Alt H. So we should have our image playing at the background there. If we go into rendered, as you can see, we've got planet Earth. If we look through our camera, look through our camera, we've got the planet Earth. I think we're a bit too close, so what I'm going to do is just back away from the planet a little bit, like that, and we'll go onto our image and make it reappear. Of course, yes, because it's called stars. Right, so go into star, because it takes on the name of the actual thing, and we'll make it so we can select it again, and we'll scale that up and then deselect it. As you can see, our stars are there behind our image, and we're just actually going to adjust our camera till it's in the right place with our Earth just the right size, like that. In fact, just maybe make the stars so they're not selectable again. I have to. Right. Delete. So what we've got here now is in our scene, we've got the stars. In fact, let me just lock this camera off because it's starting to annoy me. So what you can do is under the N key, you can actually lock the camera view. So that means that the camera now is always pointing in that direction. But we can actually see this for our simulation. So we've got the Earth, and of course all the rigid body actual entries are actually being added, and I'm just going to add in a simple cube. Actually, I think I'll use a cube. We're not going to actually let this actually appear in the render, and what I'm going to do is actually turn it into a rigid body. Like that. So I've turned it into a rigid body, but I'm going to actually hit animated. So what I want it to do is actually go to there and hit the Earth. But I don't want it visible in my render, but I can have it visible in my scene. But so this here is the actual render, and we can actually add a keyframe. Select the cube, add a keyframe, location and scale. So we've added this, we've animated the actual cube, and we'll take this to the end. And what I want it to do is just touch the Earth there on about frame 60. So I'd like the cube to actually hit that. Right, because we're actually doing 24 frames a second, that's about 3 seconds. However you want to do it. So what I'm going to do is actually set a keyframe there. K, rotation and scale, then take it to the end, and I'm just going to G and Y and just make it so it just kisses the Earth there. In fact, I'll take it on 1 frame to 61. So look, 61, and what I want this to do is just kiss the Earth there. So G and Y, so it kisses it there, and then I can do K, rotation and scale. So what it's doing is it's jumping from there, and then on frame 60 it will then jump to the Earth, and that's where our explosion will start. There we go. And as you can see, parts of our Earth are already exploding away. Just pause that for a second, because there's an easier way and a much more efficient way to do this. So I've made that actual cube not visible in our render. So let's have a look. What we can do now is actually bake this to our scene. So we want to actually bake the all the dynamics. So if we go into here, what you've got is you've got a rigid body world, and we've got a thing called cache, and we can actually bake. So delete bake because we don't want the actual one, and we can bake it. Now this is actually working it out, but it works it out quite a lot quicker than actually trying to actually draw everything on the screen and work it out and draw the screen. So it's easier if you just actually let it do its business and bake the particle movements. So looking from the front, because we've baked our image now, it will actually animate quite quickly. So press the space bar, gets to frame 60, and boom. Right, so you've exploded your planet. So what we'll do now is we'll add some effects to this. So what I'm going to go is back into layout, go into here. In fact, we'll keep it on this mode here, which is viewport shading mode, and we'll just go a bit closer. So what I'm going to do now is we're going to add in another object, and we're going to add in a UV sphere again. Now this doesn't have to be as detailed as the other one, so I'm just going to change it to 64 and 32 because it just doesn't need to be that detailed. Right, so what we've got there is we've got our Earth, and we've covered it with another sphere. And I'm going to add in another texture to this, and I'm going to put new. I'm going to call this clouds, and we're going to actually attach a ping image to this. So image texture, and this is one that I've had on my computer for ages as well, which I thought might come in useful sometimes. And as you can see, it's clouds ping. A ping image is one that has got some alpha transparency. I just shade smooth that. So we've got alpha transparency, but it's not actually showing because we haven't actually connected in the shading tab. But all you do is connect alpha transparencies to alpha. And these cloud textures can be found all over the internet, or you can make your own. It's entirely up to you. And then I use Pixlr to make mine. And I can't remember if I made this cloud texture because it's been on my computer for absolutely ages. And I don't know if I made it from scratch or acquired it from somewhere. But anyway, so what we've got now is we've got an Earth, we've got the clouds. So what we're going to do is actually do a few little effects with this. So we're just going to step this animation through. And as you can see, we'll wait till it actually gets to frame 61 when it starts to actually explode. Right, so we've got our cloud texture. What I'm going to do is put K, lock rotation and scale, take it on one frame, and I'm going to scale my clouds up just like that. So it incorporates the actual explosion a bit. In fact, make it a little bit on the interior, and K, lock rotation and scale, take it on a few frames. Let's just back out from the planet and scale, K, lock rotation and scale, and then just to give it some kind of drifting imagery, I'll take it right to the end, and I'm just going to scale it right up, and then press K again, lock rotation and scale. So what we've got is we've got boom, and it looks like our image plane is cutting off our clouds because the actual thing's going through it. So what we'll do is actually move our image plane backwards. As you can see, it's making this circle because the actual image plane is not far enough back. So go into our stars again. Right, make it selectable, and G and Y, just move it back. Okay, fat, that'll do. And because we moved it back in our scene, it shouldn't actually disappear this time. And it should go past our camera in a second. In fact, it doesn't go past our camera. So I'd like the actual, the Earth to go past our camera, a lot past it. That's it. Scale. I'm going to scale this well past my camera. Star image actually selected. Like that. And move this back selecting again. Our clouds. G and Y. And of course, the last thing that we want to actually add is our fire. So let's just do that again. So I'm just going to take this to the first frame, and we're going to add in a core to this. So the mesh we're going to use is a UV sphere. That's enough resolution. Zoom in on it. But this time we're going to add in a texture, and the texture is going to be called, we'll just call it fire. But all we're going to actually use is we're going to use an emission shader. So color it in a yellowy color. Go to emission. I'm going to set this to 5. Now maybe select the same color as up there. Oops. Helps if you select the same color. Deselect that. Right, so what I've got here is I've got an emission shader. We're going to compositing, and we're just going to use nodes. We're going to add in because we're actually doing this in EV, you can actually do it in cycles, and I think the actual effect in cycles is better. But just for speed and making this explosion, it's not as real as doing it in, like I say, in cycles, but the render time is horrendous sometimes. So let's actually just add in a filter, and we're going to add in a glare like that. And you can also add a denoise in as well if you wish. It's entirely up to you. Let's look at this thing here. I'm just making sure I haven't got denoise enabled. And what we can actually select is we can actually select ghost. Now they all have different effects, but let's just go back to the layout just to see what this is going to actually look like. So we're just going to take it until it gets to an explosion there. Press F12. And as you can see, it's looking like a little ghost in explosion. But what we can actually do is we can actually do a bit of scaling on this. So it starts off at that size. Whoopsie daisy. If I can select it. In fact, it's getting hard to select things because I've got so many things on my screen. Let's see if I can actually just zoom in and select the actual ball in the middle. Yeah. So we're looking at that, and we got it on frame 60. What I'm going to do is now actually have it grow with our explosion. So take it to, press the K key to actually set a keyframe, rotation and scale. Take it to the end frame. I'm just going to scale this so it fills my whole screen. Like that. And press K again. Rotation and scale. So we've got this, and the explosion happens. And then, of course, the light comes through. And right at the end, for the last 20 frames, so I'm going to take this to 230. What I want this to do is to fade down. So what we can do is actually go down here, or you can do it in the shading tab here, and we can go into, and you can take the alpha down to actually 0 as well. So in fact, it's not transmission, it's the actual. In fact, now take this, leave the transmission high because that actually has some nice effects. But we'll take the alpha down on the frame 20 down to. So let's go to frame 230. So we've got it there. So it's got a full alpha. So press the I key, and then at frame 250, we'll take it and press the I key again. That's it, to 0. So what we've got here is we've got an explosion, the actual light coming out, we've got the clouds coming out, and we've got the actual particles or the pieces coming out. So, and that's it finished, and all you do then is you actually render it. Decide where you're going to put it. In this case, I'm going to put it on the G. I'm going to actually put it in the thingy in my Earth project file. So I'm then going to do, well, we call it test 2. And then, of course, you accept that. Make sure that you actually got FFmpeg video actually done, because it's only 250 frame animation, so there's no reason to actually render it out to a ping image and then stitch them all together, because the likelihood of it crashing, it's possible, but it's not likely. And there you have it. The only other thing I would do is, before you actually render it into an animation, I would actually enable motion blur. Decide how many seconds you want it to actually do. I mean, I've got shutter set to ½ a second here. That just gives some trails behind the actual items that are actually exploding out of it. And of course, depth of field is always good. So that's actually found in your camera. And that actually makes things that are close to the camera fade out or disappear. And it's entirely up to you if you want to add that effect as well. But you can actually do that by going in the camera, you add a depth of field, and then if we actually open our depth of field, you can set the f-stop, and you can set the focus distance, which will actually make it work in your scene. So let's just take this to the end. And as you can see, if we press the F12 key now, things will be blurred out that are actually close to the camera. You see it's blurry here, but that might be what you want.